I am going to tell you more about sustainable packaging today. My name is Standhardt. I work for the NVC Netherlands Packaging Center. We're based in Gouda. And I will first explain a little bit more about what we do before I get into sustainable packaging. There we go. We are an association of companies involved in packaging in any imaginable way. We have members from the entire supply chain of packaged products, from raw material suppliers all the way down to retail and waste management and everything that's in between and involved, like the packaging producers, the packer fillers, the packaging machinery suppliers, the packaging designers. What else can we think of? The certification bodies, anything that has to do with packaging. We've been around for nearly 60 years. Next year it's time for a big party because then we celebrate our 60th birthday. We were founded in 1953 as the central point in the Netherlands for any information about packaging. As an association, we have three main activities. We are into information services when it comes to packaging. We inform our member companies and anyone else that wants to know about what's happening in the world of packaging. We educate people on packaging. We have courses on all the different subjects concerning packaging, from one-day courses to two-year training programs on-site and online. And the third is serving the interests of our members, both individually, helping them with all the questions they have concerning packaging, and collectively, mainly in standard development. Now, today this presentation is about sustainable packaging and the standards, the world standards for packaging and the environment that will be published on the 7th of December this year. Oh, and last but not least, we also do a lot with innovation. We promote innovation through our packaging innovation contest, the Gouden Noot, where we search for the most innovative packaging on the Benelux market every 2 years. And this year that was the Hack want-to-open closure, an easy-to-open closure for glass jars. But it's not about that today. Today is about sustainable packaging. And I don't know, does anyone know this material? No? I think in English it's called Bakelite. In Dutch it's called Bakelite. And it was actually invented by, not sure if he was Dutch or Belgium, someone from the Benelux. He invented it in America, but okay. And it was the first commercially available plastic. Early last century, I think the patent was given in 1909. And it was used a lot for light switches. And it was actually kind of based on natural ingredients, natural materials. Just like now we have the movement looking for plastics that are made from plants nowadays again. It's still produced nowadays, and people that want authentic light switches in their houses or doorknobs or whatever that used to be made from this can still buy it. It's not packaging, but it is material that could be used. A lot has been said about plastic and sustainability, and that's why the question is always, how much plastic do you use? How big is your plastic footprint? There are organizations that deal with that. But you can say that for all packaging materials. How much do you use and what is the environmental impact? But that is not the only focus point when it comes to sustainable packaging. I'll get back to that later. Because what is packaging? We all use packaging daily. Approximately 7 times per day every person opens a package. I don't know if you counted this morning. If you're in a hotel, then probably you go way over the 7 per day, because you have the nice tiny bottle of shampoo and the nice tiny bottle of shower gel and the soap, and then you go to the buffet and you open your small pack of jam. That's already 4 and you only go to breakfast. So packaging is part of our daily life, but could we make a definition of packaging? Is there anyone that wants to give me input on that? What is packaging? You're sitting in the front row, that's always good. Meant to protect the product. That's good. Is there any other reason why we should pack products? You, sir. No idea? No? Well, there are two other main reasons for packaging to be around. But first I'll give you our definition of packaging. And we use quite an abstract definition of packaging. We say packaging is temporarily integrating a product and an external function in order to enable the use of the product. So what does that mean? For example, you have milk, the product, you have a pack, you temporarily integrate them into a pack of milk. Together it goes through the supply chain. At the end, someone wants to drink the milk, takes out the milk, throws away the pack. So for a while they were together, they were one single item, but in the end they were separated. But we need the pack to get the milk from the milk factory to the consumer. We need it to protect the milk, so that was good. The conservation function. We need it to be able to transport the milk, to hold it together, the distribution function, and we need the information. Which milk is it? Which brand? Which ingredients does it have? Is it low fat? Is it full fat? Is it zero fat? So the information function is the third main function of packaging. Now, what else is important to us as NVC, as an association? Packaging is not just the item, the object, it's an activity. And we explicitly focus on the activity of packaging and look at it in a broader sense. So not just the environmental footprint of your packaging material, but look at the entire packaging system and what is the impact then when it comes to sustainable packaging. And you see here in different languages, there are different words usually for the activity and the object, but in English, packaging can be used for both. How often do we pack products? Well, this is a low estimation, but in the world we pack at least 100,000 products per second. I'm not sure if you think this is a high number or a low number. Can the people that think this is a high number raise their hand? And the people that think it's a low number? Yeah, well, I think you're right. If you look at Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola produces about 3 billion servings per day. So they already produce 35,000 servings per second. So this might be 10 times as high if we get the right numbers, but they are difficult to get worldwide. So what does this mean? We pack a lot of things, and packaging is important if we want to do things right. Packaging adds value. Sometimes it's good to add value, sometimes it's not very useful, and sometimes it's even fraudulent. If you look here on the left, this is a book, Bottle Mania, saying we pack all that water in bottles, while in most of the parts of the world we can just get it out of the, what is it in English, a faucet, a crane. Is it useful? Water from a bottle is 10,000 times more expensive, according to some estimations, as water that you take from the tube. So you add value, you make it more expensive, but is it necessary? The other example, the billionaire's vinegar, is a bottle of presumably wine that was found somewhere in the basement, and it was a unique bottle. And people thought it must have been very special, very expensive, and they sold it for a gigantic amount of money. I think it was over $100,000 at an auction, only to find out a few decades later that it was fake. It was not wine, maybe it was wine, but someone somewhere in the basement took some dentist tools, engraved some nice things in the bottle, made it look like it was really expensive, and earned a lot of money. So added value of packaging, right? And this is also something we have to deal with when we look at packaging. Because if we don't take care of doing it the right way, and not just packaging the products the right way, but also disposing of the package the right way, then we will ruin this planet, and we only have one. And now we're getting close to sustainability. What is sustainability? Now, I don't know if anyone wants to say something about that, but we look at it this way. This is a very common way to look at sustainability. The definition of sustainability, or actually sustainable development, comes from the the World Commission on Environment and Development, or the Brundtland Report, Our Common Future. And we say sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So the things we do now should not negatively affect the things that our children and our children's children can and want to do in the future. We measure sustainability in 3 factors: the people, the planet, and the profit. And if you only look at the planet, then you're looking at environmental pressure. But we say you should also include the people. It's an important factor when it comes to packaging and sustainability. And the profit, well, that's well known. If you don't make profit, if you go below 0 at the end of the year and you do that a few years in a row, then there's no business. Also from the same report. So, sustainability and packaging. By definition, packaging, because you temporarily integrate a product and then you separate them again, creates waste. It's not the product, it's not the thing you want to use, but you need it to be able to use what you want to use, and then you have something left. And most consumers, they don't like packaging because when they open the bin at home, all they see is packaging waste. Loads and loads of packaging waste. It might be only a few % of the total amount of waste we produce in this world, but that's not what the consumer sees. So, waste by definition. By definition, and that's why we are an association of the entire supply chain of packaged products, it is something that takes place in the entire supply chain. You need packaging to get it from one place to another, from one producer to the customer. And we think packaging must contribute to a sustainable development of this world through innovation. Now, a brief look at the 3 factors. Some social factors, the people compartment of sustainability. And this is about urbanization. More and more people are starting to live in cities. And actually in 2006, it was the point when more than half of the world population was living in a city and not in the villages anymore, on the country field where people have their own vegetables growing in their backyard and their own cow to milk and get their milk from. And every citizen that lives in a city needs to get his or her food and products from somewhere else that are grown or produced somewhere else. So every person that lives in a city needs a supply chain, needs packaging. The planet component has had also many variations through the years in what was important. If you look here, in the early 80s, it was the sulfur dioxide, das Waldsterben, the dying of the forest because of the sulfur acidic rain. And you see nuclear power through there as well. Genetically modified organisms are still reasonably high in the chain, but going down. Who knows? Maybe concerns about that will go up again. And packaging is always there and growing. But it's always something else. In the last decade, we've been talking mostly about CO2. And we think in the future it might be more about the use of water. We have a limited supply of drinkable water in this world. We can turn almost all the water we have into drinkable water, but that takes a lot of effort and energy, and we have to take care of that as well. Food supply is also a concern. Also, when you consider that some sources we use for food can also be used for packaging, and the other way around, of course. And last one, the profit factor economy. Well, who can say anything about that anymore? We don't know anymore how that is going to go. We all have to just do our best to make profit for our own companies and work hard for that. Now, here in Europe, we have legislation for sustainable packaging, for packaging in the environment. And in the legislation, you find the essential requirements. Some requirements that packaging and packaged products have to comply to if you want to put them in the European market. We always use this picture. It's A simple picture with a clear overview of what you have to do if you want to put packaged products in the European market and comply to the environmental packaging legislation. You see, the train comes here and it has to follow the track. The track is round because it's an iteration process. And the first station it can pass is reuse. Now, most people say the most sustainable packaging is a crate that you can reuse 100 times, 400 times. And it's true, it does help, because every time you use the crate, you don't have to make a new crate. But in the end, the crate will wear down, it will break, and you have to throw it away. And that's why it still has to comply to the other factors. Now, on the right, we have 3 stations. We have material recycling, energy recovery, and organic recovery, composting. And every packaging on the European market has to be recovered, or it has to be possible to recover it through one of those 3 means. So if you put packaging on the market, you have to be either able to recycle it, to burn it. That's energy recovery. If we do that the right way, we get some energy back. Or to compost it. Then we go further along the track. We get to identification. Traceability is an important factor. It might help. It's not necessary, not obligatory. And then we get to the 2 points that are really, really important. The heavy metals. There are 4 heavy metals like lead and chrome. And you are not allowed to put more than 100 parts per billion in your packaging. It's often in colorants, in inks. We've seen it especially in the yellow, the cadmium. Most of it is taken out of the market now, luckily. It has to be less, and actually the legislation says it should be as little as possible. If you go over the 100 parts per billion, then you're really in trouble. And the last one, and that's the most interesting one to us actually, is you have to prevent bringing more packaging waste to the market than necessary. You have to have a system, a way of thinking in which you continuously improve and think, is this the amount of packaging I need for my product, or can I do with less? Coca-Cola every year has a report, sustainability report. Our bottle is 2 grams lighter this year, right? Prevention of packaging waste in the simplest form, because that is only looking at the packaging. Now, we've been going through a process of making the worldwide standards, because we already had European standards that are based on this legislation, this system. And from Asia came the question, can't we make this worldwide standards? Standards for everyone in the world to follow, so everywhere in the world we agree on how to deal with packaging and the environment. And we said, okay, sounds like a good idea, let's try and cooperate. We were one of the conveners of one of the working groups, the prevention working group, of course, our managing director. And we were the only European convener in the process. Why are standards important? Standards support world trade. The World Trade Organization, if you're connected to, as a country, to the World Trade Organization, you say, I accept ISO standards. That's part of the agreement. They support innovation. If you set boundaries for what items, products have to comply to, then you have a framework for innovation. Within that framework, it fits. When it comes to packaging and world standardization, we want to maintain the license to operate to be packaging products. We want it to be clear to people that it is beneficial to package products, and if it's not beneficial, then don't pack the products. Standards contribute to the well-being of mankind. I'm going to be an ISO promoter here. And the result of the worldwide standards is this. Is that very surprising? It's almost the same. The basic idea is the same. It's not a direct copy. The main difference actually, except for some worldwide differences in the way we deal with recycling and energy recovery and composting, is in the prevention part. The prevention standard worldwide is not called prevention anymore, it's called optimization of the packaging system. And that means you don't just look at making the bottle 2 grams lighter, but you look at the entire packaging system that the packaging is part of, and you look at over design and under design, using too much and using too little packaging material and the effects of that, when it comes also to food waste. Because if you don't use enough packaging material for your food, then you have a great risk of something going wrong in the supply chain and creating food waste. Now, just a little bit about the standardization process. It started in Stockholm with a nice meeting there. The Swedish Standardization Institute had a joint secretariat with the Chinese. Then we went to China, to Japan. Finalizing the documents happened in the United States at the Coca-Cola headquarters. They were heavily involved as well, just like, for example, IKEA. And finally, we had the 100% approval for the standards. They said at first that they were going to be published in October, but now we have a final date for publishing, and that is the 7th of December. And from the 7th of December on, the world can start working with worldwide standards for packaging and the environment. 7th of December, I just said it. So, what are the steps from now on? We can start implementing the way of thinking of these standards. Now, I already gave all of you a head start. If you want to get started with sustainable packaging, or you're already working on it, then this way of thinking should help you to set steps that are real improvements. And I want to encourage all of you to use our definition of packaging, not because it's ours, but because we think that this abstract way of thinking of packaging in functions, functionalities, helps to figure out what your product really needs as packaging and not use too much. To align packaging innovation with sustainable development, we think it should be part of each other, integrated into each other. Apply the ISO standards that will be published next month. And I want to encourage you all to continuously improve. And if there are any questions about all the developments around oil-based versus bio-based plastics, feel free to come afterwards, after the presentation, and have a small talk with me, because I can tell you a lot about that as well. That was my presentation. I don't know if you have any questions. Then I thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a very good exhibition here.